to everybody. We're glad to be back on this wonderful Shabbat, an opportunity to catch our breath and to see some really amazing biblical concepts. I have to say, without any doubt, we're here in the Book of Joshua, and I hope that you pay attention. Many of the principles that I'm seeing that are already coming out of the Book of Joshua, I believe in the very near future are going to be applicable for us. What am I saying? What I'm saying is there are principles which govern everything, and Yah uses principles. If you go past this point, then I will punish you, and if you don't, then you stay here. The principle is what? Don't go past the point. And so that was the intent that he had for humans, because we're kind of unruly sometimes. I'm sure maybe some of you have watched the news lately. Maybe some of you have children, and you certainly know the reality of humanity. And so I really think that you can extract a really great blessing for yourself. Maybe you have some struggles and conflicts that you don't even recognize because you haven't taken the time to look at yourself and ask yourself, is that me that he's talking about? And oftentimes, and I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about Yah. Oftentimes, I think that we forget the thing that's most important, which is that me that Yah is talking about? Do these words, see, there's a lot of conflict in the scholarly world. Half of the scholars that exist in the world are atheists. They don't believe any of this stuff. Most don't believe there's a Moses or anybody else. It's all fictitious literature that was written. I'm sorrowful. I agree with them about much, but I don't agree with them that Yah isn't real. It's quite obvious to me that he's real. What's becoming more obvious to me is that, for the most part, about the only advantage there is to using the Bible, once you know what the true covenant is, and I'm going to hopefully expose to you guys and help give you some peace about the direction that I desire to go, as well as to share with people. And if you make that decision to go, then maybe you'll be blessed by my teachings. But there's some really profound things that we need to see, folks. Things that we've been told and how we view is really pretty deplete of reality in many levels. And I'm not talking about all that's going on with our government or in the United. All of that's true too. We are very replete of truth. Most of what we know, Dave's song, which we were going to do this week, Mikey, and you guys remember him in prayer. Mikey got a stomach virus or something, and he was not well last night, and he's sleeping today, so we won't be playing any music. But yeah, it's really crazy, folks. We live in a supernatural time. When I first came when Yah first called me, I didn't go seeking truth. He called me to come to it, and I listened and I went. And I think that probably is the only way that really is real. And for others of you, you felt the same drawing, a calling, a need to know who your Creator is, and that's what this is all about. It's so funny that we all get hung up in our dogmas, and I think one of my greatest days was when I came to the revelation that it really was true. Dave's song about lay it all down, that everything I had known was a lie. And so that's been a part of my journey. Obviously, folks, you won't begin to keep the Torah under the guises of Christianity if you recognize what the Torah actually is and where it benefits. So just opens up a lot of things that are starting to make a whole lot more sense. And so I hope that you are seeing the same. And if you are, I hope you're allowing it to bless you, because none of this is meant to hurt us, even if it's hard. And what he said to me the other day that I shared with you guys is hard. There was no promise in there. In fact, quite the opposite. There was no promise of salvation from what's coming. And so he's been kind of putting seeds like that in me for a while, and it fits with what's going on here with Joshua, So I just would like to say to you, shalom, first off. I hope you have peace. It's kind of hard to have peace when you're reading about you're supposed to go into the land and kill every human that exists, and yet we live in a world that those standards would salvage what's going on here. Is anybody hearing me? It is impossible for two people with different ideologies to live together. I don't care who you are, and that's the problem with this. That is a reality from Yah. In fact, he never intended for us to. Had Israel done, and we're going to see that today, had Israel done what Yah said, folks, we wouldn't be having an Israeli war right now. This also is a piece of the reverberating prophecy that never stops. When Yah spoke those words to Israel, and he said, as long as you keep my command, you will be rich, prosperous, and I will bless you above all the nations. But the minute that you turn your back on me, I am going to curse you. And you can get condemned in today's scholarly world for telling people that they're cursed because they refuse the Torah. But it's the truth. It just isn't popular. It doesn't make your United Israel picture any prettier. Okay? There is no United Israel. Israel can't even find itself. So now we have the divided Israel, and as talking to Brother Cliff yesterday, I coined a little phrase. We're no longer going to be called the United States of America. We're very soonly to be called the divided States of America. But look, it's not just here. It's all over the world. And so, Yah is always faithful, and he always shows us before things happen. Can I tell you, it ain't so wonderful somebody who can always tell you what happened after it did. But you might ought to pay attention to people who have a pretty good track record of telling you before it did. That might be noteworthy. So, anyways, lots coming down, folks. We're living in the most tumultuous and worrisome time, and yet I have to tell you, what Yah is trying to open and reveal for us is the protection and the understanding and the wisdom that we need to get through what's coming. He never does anything until he has told someone. If you can believe that JC existed and you can't believe that Yah doesn't change his character, he doesn't just do things on the earth without telling people. The problem is most of the people of the earth don't want to hear what he has to say. And so when somebody speaks it, they call it false. We probably should read the book of Deuteronomy about how to judge a false prophet. It might turn our eyes, because there was a bigger piece than ever got taught. And someday, I think it's very soon, we're gonna go take a look at that, about the defining of truth and lie. And Yah gave us a perfect plan for it. So we're going to pray, and we're going to jump into, I'm going to pick up in chapter 3 about verse 14, as I always do, and then read into chapter 4 in the book of Yahshua, or Joshua. Father, bless you today. Thank you for all your wonderful goodness. You truly are, wow. There's no words. If we put all the words that are wonderful and magnanimous together in the whole earth, they would still be pale compared to who you are. I bless you today. I thank you for your kindness and your love, and you truly are merciful. But you also have a point where you're tired of playing games with us. And many people are living that on a personal level every single day, some with knowledge, some without knowledge. But we're also living it on a global realm. And so, you know those things are true. That's part of your plan, and I accept it fully. I just simply ask you that you help us to learn more of who you are, so that we might also know more of who we're supposed to turn ourselves into. You're not going to do it. It's up to us. And so I bless you, and I thank you for your truth you've shown to me. May I help some soul out there who needs somebody to tell them the truth. Amen. Brother Dave. All right. The Book of Yahusha, or Joshua. Kind of hard to say that name now. It's funny, I used to say it 1,000 times a service, and now it's almost foreign already to me. And it came to pass, when the people removed from their tents to pass over the Jordan, and the priests bearing the ark of the covenant before the people, and as they that bore the ark were come unto the Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bore the ark were dipped in the brim of the water, as soon as they put their foot in the water. All right? Now, I have to say, I'm sure that you'll pick it up on your own, but if you will actually stop and think about, this is like almost like a redo of the Exodus. Joshua's journey is almost identical to a redux of the Exodus. What are they doing? They're coming out. What are they coming out of? Yet again, they're coming out of bondage. Have we forgotten the Torah of Yah? Yes, in 40 years it had been pretty much forgotten. And we find that because they weren't doing any of the things that the scriptures teach us that we are supposed to do. And so, as soon as the priests were carrying the Ark of the Covenant, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna plant this seed, and I hope it'll make you question enough to go thinking about what it is that I'm trying to get across. We could have a whole conversation on this thing that the priests are carrying. Was it the only recorded other than outside of, but the only recorded words that tell us the picture of the Ark of the Covenant that we have at least some pretty sure resemblance are the same words written by the same person who wrote or carried the 10 words. And the purpose for this ark was not for the bud and the staff of Aaron. And it wasn't for the other things that were put in it. This box made by Moses that we have, at least at some levels, some historical footprint past somebody saying, and God said to Aholiab and whoever the other one was, go make a box that's worth $50 million so people can see that I'm wonderful. That should be, I hate to say this, but that really should be a dead giveaway to us. He already owns the gold. Do you think he's really has to try to impress humans? That sounds like a human that's trying to impress other humans. Not like an Elohim who already owns all of this anyways. And he's going to prove it to us inevitably at the end. He is going to prove it because he is going to burn this earth. Nobody's going to have the power to stop him. And when he does it, if there's humans on this earth, they're all going to burn and they will no longer, any residue of them will not exist. I believe that'll be the new creation when it begins again with the spirits that have all come through the test and the journey, if I might. So then we have two questions. Which ark is the real ark? And then secondly, what's in the ark? Because if we can figure out for sure what ties to Moshe and YEHOVAH, what was in that ark, anything else in that ark, folk, was not from YEHOVAH. Is anybody hearing me? This stuff this ought to be bouncing all over the world. And it's right here in front of us. But we just don't think very much. I was talking to somebody who doesn't know anything about the Torah, and I made the comment, and it shocks me every time I say it, but it is in fact the truth. Folks, do you have any clue or any understanding about what the Jewish people, or let me not say them, the true Israel and the Elohim of Israel, YEHOVAH, do you have any clue about how he views human sacrifice? And they concocted a whole religious system based totally off of one of the things that Yah hates the most, and you can't see that it's all BS? Wow. Their scholars spent their whole life studying it, and they haven't come to the truth yet. Wow. So we have a thought that I want to seed you with. What was this ark that they're carrying? What was this ark made out of? What did it look like? And even really more importantly, because we know what the two horses are. One's acacia wood, hand built by Moshe, and the other is gold manufactured by 1,000 people who had every reason to want to make this so precious. And as they that bore the ark were come unto the Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bore the ark were dipped in the brim of the water, for the Jordan overflows all the banks all the time of harvest. That the waters which came down from above stood and rose up upon a heap very far from the city Adam, that is beside Zarethan, which is where they wanted to go over. And those that came down towards the sea of the plain, even the salt sea, failed and were cut off, and the people passed over right against Jericho. So Yah is like supernaturally, he even determined where the water's going to stop. No, see, I don't want you going over there because the plan doesn't start over there. And the message that I want us to get is, folks, in every area of our life, the question really comes down to a very simple question. Are you running your life, or is Yah? You say all the time, well, I don't want to. So who cares what you want? And I know for many of you that might have some tolerance of all the progressiveness that's going on, I have very little tolerance for that. I think that until we have some people in America, some men who have enough backbone to stand up and say what the truth is, no matter who doesn't like it. And unfortunately for them, it seems like maybe little by little that's starting to happen again. Maybe there really are some true 1776 men in America. I'm not sure at this point. And as they bore the ark, were come unto the Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bore the ark were dipped in the brim of the water, for the Jordan overflows. Verse 16, that the waters which came down from above stood and rose up upon a heap very far from the city Adam, and that is beside Zarethan. And those that came down towards the sea of the plain, even the sea salt, failed and were cut off, and the people passed over right against Jericho. And the priests that bore the ark of the covenant of YEHOVAH stood firm on the dry ground in the midst of the Jordan, and all Yisrael passed over on dry ground until all the people were passed over, clean over the Jordan. Estimated number somewhere around 500,000 people. You think we got an invasion, folks? When the Israelites came out of the bottom and crossed that Jordan River, that was probably a week-long invasion of close to 500,000 people. Can I give you a little picture even that applies to our times? If you let 500,000 in America freely, you're going to get the same thing. That all of these nations we're about to read, one by one, all of these nationalities, all of these cities that are one by one destroyed. If you can't see the prophetic picture of what's happening to us, oh, well, the difference is because it's the Israelites, and that is, in fact, a difference. But it doesn't change the principle. If you bring in enough people to pollute the other people, you can, in fact, destroy the other people. Hello, the divided states of America. And the priests that bore the ark of the covenant stood on dry ground in the midst of the Jordan. And all Yisrael passed over on dry ground until all the people were passed clean over the Jordan. This is a picture for us of the Exodus happening again. So here, for those of you who have been following and actually have been good students and have been listening, the seed that I've been sowing gets manifested directly in the scripture. Okay? There's too many parallels between coming out of Mitzrayim and spending 40 years in the desert. Can I give you a thought that maybe has never occurred to you in light of what I've been sharing and what I am sharing? Can I give you a thought that maybe you've never occurred to you? The reason that he has prompted me that there is a recurring, and once he speaks a prophecy, it never ends. This is proof of that. Okay? You say, well, that's just one time happening. It was accidental 40 years apart, and y'all started all over again. Well, is it? Is it? Maybe you ought to think a little bit past what they taught you in Sunday school. And it came to pass, when all the people were clean passed over the Jordan, that YEHOVAH spoke unto YEHOVAH, saying, take you 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe of man. So total inclusionness. I want you to see the principle. Yah isn't about dividing things. He's about putting them back together. How do I know that America is in the hands of the devil? Because division is what comes. Yah doesn't break things apart. He puts them back together. Even Israel. I will punish you, but then I what? I will put you back together. All 12 tribes will one day walk this earth again, and they will, because Jeremiah told us in 31 that the new covenant YEHOVAH was going to build with the whole world was going to be, everyone would have intimate, internal, instinctive Torah knowledge. Most of us cannot exist in that realm. And we certainly don't know the Torah just because it's us. So I know that we're not in a new covenant. The New Testament is for new Romans. This is your history, even if it's not true. Take you 12 men out of the people, and out of every tribe of man. Out of every tribe of man was the key word there that gives us a hint of a principle that's jumping. And command ye them, saying, take ye hence out of the midst of the Jordan, out of the place where the priest's feet stood firm, 12 stones, and you shall carry them over with you, and leave them in the lodging place. So why was Yah doing that? Yah was marking his territory. I want you to see, I brought all 12 of them to here. And I want you to see, because what they do next is they place 12 in the water. Somebody asked the question, well, I wonder where them 12 are. Well, let's see, 7,000 years later? I'm guessing probably buried under about 40 foot of silt. But I assure you, them 12 stones are down there. Unless they've been moved by somebody. I don't know how Yah works with that. I don't know if he strikes people dead for trying to move monuments he left. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know that. But if they didn't, then I guarantee you they're buried under silt in the bottom of the Jordan River. Just like Mount Ebal was recently found, and most people don't even know that. We'll get to that here in a little while, because it's absolutely amazing. Guys, if you are here and you've been listening, and you have come to learn and understand that this is about a Torah of YEHOVAH's covenant, the instructions and how to live in his covenant. It's not anything else. It's not Judaism. It's not Christianity. It's none of those. None of those things are necessary to come to relationship with the Elohim. Some of you may hear in your spirit something calling. I've been seeing, I believe there is a call going out in the spirit realm. Most will not hear it. Even if they could, they wouldn't do anything. So I'm not worried about that. But I am interested in the people who do hear him and make a commitment to follow him at all cost. Because it's not going to cost you a little. It's going to cost you everything. So take ye 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe of man, and command ye them, saying, take ye hence out of the midst of the Jordan, out of the place where the priest's feet stood firm, 12 stones, and you shall carry them over with you, and leave them in the lodging place where you shall lodge this night. Then Yeshua called the 12 men whom he had prepared of the children of Yashrael out of every tribe. Now I would like for you to notice, other than the term when they use Yehuda, okay, This is all inclusive to all of Israel. I keep reiterating that because everywhere I go, I spend more time explaining to people that the Jews have lied to you and that the Jews are not Yah's chosen people. They were just as cursed as the 10 tribes of Israel were. And Yeshua said unto them, Pass over before the ark of YEHOVAH Elohim, and into the midst of the Jordan, and take up every man of you a stone upon his shoulder, according unto the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, that they may be a sign amongst you, that when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, What mean ye by these stones? Then you shall answer them, that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of YEHOVAH when it passed over the Jordan, and the waters of the Jordan were cut off, and these stones shall be a memorial unto the children of Yisrael forever. Has anybody heard anything but an all-inclusive concept? I'm going to keep harping on that because there are a lot of people in this world, and we have so many factions and so much lies and so much deception. But there is a problem when people isolate themselves as being Yah's people only. The isolation of every human in the face of the earth comes down to only one question. Will you follow Elohim's covenant? If you don't, no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, you're doomed. I don't care if you're Christian, Islamic, Judah, Buddha, Kuda, Duda, don't make me no difference what you are. This ain't about what you are, it's about what you're not. So somebody could surmise then and ask the simple question, so you mean, Pastor Rob, that all of life is about Elohim's commands? And I would very quickly and efficiently send you to the very last book of the book of Ecclesiasticus by supposedly the wisest man that ever lived until he started offering false sacrifices, and then he disappears off of history. Built the biggest temple and disappeared in one lifetime. One for good, one for sin. But Shalamah says in the book of Ecclesiastes, then, so the sole purpose of mankind ever being put on this planet, that is to say, not one human is on this planet that's for any other purpose than to keep Yah's commandments. And if that was taught to children, we might actually have a life that was worth living. But we don't even know that most people as adults. See, it's not optional as to whether you get to investigate the Torah. You do, and you just curse yourself. And I walk around curse people all the time. I shake my head for them. I'm like, I'm sad for you, but you know, you probably, maybe this one didn't get to hear the truth, but this one did hear the truth, and they're not living any different. I think I would rather have never heard it and fail than I would have to have heard it and fail. And they were cut off before the ark of the covenant. When it passed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off, and these stones shall be a memorial unto the children of Yisrael. And the children of Yisrael did so as Yahushua commanded, and took up 12 stones out of the midst of the Jordan, as YEHOVAH spoke unto Yahushua, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Yisrael, carried them over with them unto the place where they lodged, and laid them down there. Now, I've heard people, so just you understand, not all scholars there are progressive scholars, there are liberal scholars, okay, and there's ultra-conservative scholars, so you can be a scholar and have a completely different taint. But I've heard a conversation as to whether these were the 12 stones that the priest wore on the breastplate. Kind of minuscule. Does it matter what stones they were? They put them. Their purpose was to put them as a heap and leave it as a memorial that YEHOVAH and his people had been here. I don't think there was carbuncle and whatever the 10 stones are, the onyx and the beryl and all of that. I'm pretty sure if money people came along and saw that heap, that's going to disappear pretty quick. But a big old chunk of limestone that a big strong man had to work hard to put on his shoulder and carry, that might be a little bit different thing. Y'all was about memorial, folks. We have such a carnal, money, greed-driven thought process. Every one of us do. It's all about that. And you talk to people, well, how you doing? Oh, my job's going good, man. I just got a pay raise, and look how good things are going. And so, are you going to burn in hell? Sometimes it's pretty sad. No, all the time it's pretty sad. And so Yahusha set up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priest, which bore the ark of the covenant, stood, and they are there unto this day, under 40 foot of rubble. For the priest shall bore the ark, for the priest which bore the ark stood in the midst of the Jordan until everything was finished that YEHOVAH commanded. And Yahusha to speak unto the people according to all that Moshe commanded at Yahusha. So what is it? What did Moshe speak? Do you think he stood there and gave a 40-year dissertation? Because my understanding is it takes about as long to recant something as it did to live it. Maybe if you paraphrase, you can get through it a lot faster. So then he's talking about something that Moses spoke. What did Moses speak? Moses spoke the Torah. Not Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. He spoke the Torah. And it came to pass, when all the people were clean passed over, that the ark of YEHOVAH passed over, and the priest in the presence of the people, and the children of Reuben, and the children of Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh, the ones who inheritance was on the side of the Jordan they had just left. About 40,000 prepared for war. They passed over before YEHOVAH unto battle to the plains of Jericho. On that day, YEHOVAH magnified Yahusha in the sight of all Yisrael, and they feared him as they feared Moshe all the days of his life. And YEHOVAH spoke unto Yahusha, saying, Command the priests that bear the ark of the testimony that they come up out of the Jordan. And Yahusha therefore commanded at the priests, saying, Come ye up out of the Jordan. And it came to pass, when the priests that bore the ark of the covenant of YEHOVAH were come up out of the midst of the Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet were lifted up unto the dry ground, that the waters of the Jordan returned unto their place, and flowed over all his banks, as it did before. And the people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and encamped in Gilgal in the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan did Yahusha pitch in Gilgal. And he spoke unto the children of Israel, saying, When your children shall ask their fathers in the time to come, saying, What mean these stones? Then you shall let your children know, saying, Yisrael came over this Jordan on dry land. For YEHOVAH Elohim dried up the waters of the Jordan from before you until you were passed over, as YEHOVAH Elohim did to the Red Sea, which he dried up from before us, until we were gone over. See, even Joshua is telling you there's a perfect parallel here. That all the people of the earth might know of the land of YEHOVAH, that it is mighty, that you might fear YEHOVAH Elohim forever. So what was the purpose of all of this? It was a reminder that, folks, no matter who you are, he's bigger than you are. And you need to remember that. Nobody gets away with anything. Because we're not punished today, we're really naive, stupid little children, and we think that because we don't get punished today, that punishment isn't coming. But remember, this is the Elohim who knows every thought and every heart and every intention, and he says, for everything that you think, act, do, say, how you treat people, you're going to pay a price for that. And we blindly walk around like we actually know what we're talking about, and we somehow think because we didn't die today, it must be good. And in fact, it's not good at all, maybe. I'm not saying that it's not for you. I don't know you, and I don't know what your heart is. Yah sees a lot of people who don't break the Torah, and they got an ugly heart. They do the things, but they do it out of anger, and they do it out of all kinds of things, resentment. Just about every emotion that you can imagine. Well, I'll go because I have to. Don't go. Don't waste your time. Christianity is about getting people in, not about teaching them the truth. Because we need your money. I need a bigger church and a faster car and a bigger plane. Oh, well, huh? So we have this whole thing going on. We have this whole picture being concocted. So here's a thought for you. In history, does history tell us that these people did all that Joshua said? Or do we have some other pictures of them going back into the, if you would, metaphoric Egypt again? So we have it with Moshe. We have it with Joshua. We're going to find out in the story either later today or next week. We're going to find out in the story that what happened. Even the great and powerful and blessed and protected and courageous and strong and foresighted and faithful and humble Joshua can defy YEHOVAH. You would have never believed it if you hadn't seen it for yourself, but you're going to get to see it, even if nobody else has ever shown it to you. We're going to take a second, and we're going to take a little break here. We're going to get ready. We're going to get our bread and stuff ready here in a bit. I hope you guys are understanding. This is very vital times we're living in, folks. Finally, I've been talking it for 5 or 6 years about treason, but I'm just now starting to hear people that are actually making it to television, and those words are coming out of their mouth. Folks, we're in dire straits. I'm sorrowful. I love everybody. I'm not mad at nobody. I've had lots of people that have hated me and their behavior and words and all of that stuff. And you know what? I don't even care. The ones that walk with me will walk with me, and the ones that don't won't. It's just that simple. I ain't hung up on either side. I don't believe Yah is either. I don't think Yah sits around at night sleeping about all the people who don't believe him. I believe that he doesn't sleep, but certainly if he knows all the thoughts, those thoughts, if he has emotions like ours, those would invoke the things that people have said and done, including myself, to Yah, are pretty ghastly. Come on. Somebody's alive. Somebody's a real human today, or am I talking to AI? Maybe sometimes when I'm talking to humans, I'm talking to AI. Not quite sure anymore. But them women sure look realistic. Wow. Are we in the Matrix? It's a good question. Let's pray. Father, bless you today. Thank you so much for this wonderful time. I hope that I provoke someone to good works. I don't have any desire to offend anybody, although I have to be honest about where I've lived and what I've seen. I can only speak what I've lived. And so I thank you that you are true. I thank you that you will help us. And even as you said recently, that we will make it through. You didn't say it was easy. And so I bless you. I ask you to be with us. Amen. All right. We'll be back in about 5 minutes or so. right. Shalom to everybody. Hope you took a break and had a time to catch your breath. We got our goods. We're gonna partake of that. How amazing it is to be alive in the year 2024. You know, the Bible tells us that we were all made for such a time as this, and that is always applicable no matter where in history somebody lived. They were made for that time. If you believe in divine providence and that YEHOVAH puts each individual person on this earth, and he has knowledge of every individual person, and if you don't believe that, well, then there's nothing we could talk about it that would make any sense anyways, because we live in two different worlds. But if you get that, and you get that Yah is real, I've heard several times recently people saying, I don't know anything about religion and I don't like it, but I do believe that there is some force greater than us. And when I was in Christianity, then that was when you belittled the person. I think that that's actually brings people closer to the beginning of the reality, because those people, because of their parenting or whatever, don't have to unlearn all the stuff that we're having to unlearn. What I thought was true is not true. And so I think those people maybe fare a little better on some levels if they hear the truth, if they're a heart, and that's nothing that you can give. People that are deaf, folks. That's why Yah used that metaphor. I could use lots of other terms, some of which are derogatory, to say the same thing. But the truth of the matter is if you don't get it, you just don't get it. And the ones that do get it are blessed. Yah gave it to them. Y'all don't want to hear that. You want to hear everybody's got it right? Well, unfortunately, folks, it ain't the truth. So if you want to be lied to, that ain't me. So we're going to take our bread, for sure. Baruch atah YEHOVAH Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lakim min haaretz. Blessed are you, YEHOVAH, King of the universe. You rule everything. You know everything. You own everything. You are everything. You do everything. It's you. You are the universe. And you rule it rightly. Bless you. Let us partake. Oh my goodness. Dave's over here trying to provoke me. Kind of hard not to love some Amish elderberry jelly and homemade butter. That's good stuff. Baruch atah YEHOVAH Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Blessed are you, YEHOVAH, King of the universe, who has brought forth the fruit of the vine. Let us partake together. Shalom to each and every one of you. So I'm on this thought process of us, I don't know, I guess wanting to deal with the reality of all that we've learned. And I don't know how many of you have done that. Maybe all of you have, that are interested in learning and desirous to grow out. I'd like to say hey to all of you guys. It's probably not gonna overwhelm the internet, but I am thankful for all of you new people that are subscribers that have come by recently. Blessings to you. This is a rude journey, and it's called life. And I want us above everything to be realist, and I am a realist, and most people aren't in our society. They don't want to deal with reality. They want you to give them the story, and that's why Christianity has become so popular, because it's easy. You can find salvation, and you don't have to sacrifice. And yet, the Elohim, YEHOVAH, is all about that kind of sacrifice. The sacrifice, if I can say this according to Samuel, which is where one of the places that we're heading because there's just as many principles in Samuel about how YEHOVAH's character is. I can't imagine at this stage that that's not everybody's priority, is to know what is Yah's character. I grew up, and my grandpa taught out of the Old Testament a lot, and I saw Yah's character, but he tied it with Jesus. And I left and went and spent 30 years in the world. I didn't care nothing about any of it. What is it? What is the truth? I don't really care what it is. I just want to know what it is. Hey, if we can all do whatever, let it hang and let's go have fun. To heck with all of it, right? If I'm already saved, I've got the done. I'm gonna just go live and do whatever I want to do. Why? Because I'm already saved. And that works real good for weak-minded people. But it don't work so good for people who have a mind, for people who think about the ramifications of situations. And if Yah is true and every man's a liar, then these words that he tells us about what's coming at the end of time, folks, they're pretty serious. And it came to pass when all of the kings of the Emoriim, which were on the side of the Jordan westward, and all the kings of the Canaan, which were by the sea, heard that YEHOVAH had dried up the waters of the Jordan from before the children of Yisrael until we were passed over, that their heart melted, and neither was their spirit in them any more because of the children of Yisrael. And if you read that literally, you won't understand, because that means that all the people were walking around without spirits and their hearts were blob. That's their minds. They weren't even able to function and think. And we obviously know that's not true because of how they react. So I just wanted to make that point. It seems like sometimes contextual points are kind of missed, and even with well-trained professors who miss the point. And at that time YEHOVAH said unto Yahusha, make you sharp knives and circumcise again the children of Yisrael the second time. Wow. Poor old men got cut 40 years ago, and now they're going to get cut again. I was kind of thinking about that in my mind, how it might be that a man could get recircumcised. Well, I know you didn't have those thoughts, but they had quit keeping the commands. Here's something that I've really seen a lot, folks. It helps me to understand where we're at, because, folks, that covenant that was given of circumcision was given to Abraham prior to Moses ever walking the face of this earth. And yet, he allowed them to stop the covenant of Abraham. Have you thought about that? Joshua's going to tell us that. You know, he also allowed them to not keep the Passover. So, in tying things to us, as I've already told you, this is a recurring picture that we're going to watch play out in front of us, only this time we're the people in it. But here's the thing that's really crazy. Isn't it funny that all of these things that have already been in the past, that we're seeing them now? If we were to write history about the Passover in the year 2024, what would you find? Well, the Jews have a chicken leg. Let me see. Let me go back there in them 5 books of the Torah, over there. And let me read all them laws about how many sacrifices I got to kill. That's what most people get out of Yah's writings. But we found out in Amos the secret when I taught, and for those of you who haven't seen that, you should really go check that out. Because all of the writings that are in the Pentateuch, I like to use that because of the Torah, because the Torah is real, but the Torah is not the first 5 books of the Bible. In fact, the Torah can be summed up in about a couple pages, folks. Not much to it. But the ramifications of not doing it are huge. Okay? That's why over and over again you see it with Jeremiah. When I went through Jeremiah, what did we go? What did it take us, 60 weeks or something? We went through Jeremiah. And Jeremiah clearly says, you scribes, you religious controllers have damaged Yah's Torah. It shouldn't surprise us, folks, for me to tell you that most of the Levitical priesthood books are trash. There were rules made by people. And we have 7 prophets that tell us that that's the case. Here's the thing that maybe some of you might help. You have the book, and could the prophets be altered? Yes, they could. So I'm sure that there's corruptions and mistakes in there. But if you take a principle, a situation, a statement, and you find that in all 7 of the prophets and you don't find it in the other, you might start asking yourself a question, who wrote this other? Is anybody understanding what I'm saying? We not only have to read the New Testament, there's some really good, and I promise I am going to still do that. You guys got to hear Matthew if you take all the Roman JC stuff out of it. It's a Hebrew document. Yeshua taught the Torah. And every Christian would hate him. They love Serapis much better because Serapis saves everybody. But that's not now, nor has it ever been what the truth is. And so at that time, YEHOVAH said unto YEHOSHA, make you sharp knives and circumcise again the children of Yashrael the second time. He's not recircumcising anyone. He's circumcising because for 40 years, until all of the people died, all of the men of war, all the ladies did not die. All of the men of war died. The ones, that wouldn't go up and possess the land. So let's look at the completeness just in that picture. They go, Yah gives a good report, they go and give a bad report, and what happens? He kills them all. Now, I got to ask you something. If you know anything about character of who people are, after about 3 or 4 times they slap you in the face, you can pretty much bet that that's what they're going to do to you. So if you just, for a second, even believe that Elohim exists in the spirit realm, then how he acted yesterday, unless there's some reason, and usually that's pretty discernible if you have any common sense at all, to go, oh, well, I see why he didn't do that. I see why he helped Joshua, and he held the sun in one place. He has the power to do whatever he wanted to. Right? So we want to limit him to he can't ever, and that's not true. He can't. He can set aside one of his rulings for a season, for a time, for a purpose that he knows, and he don't have to explain it to you. If you end up in that struggle, then all you have to do is ask yourself, well, after that situation was over, how did YEHOVAH react? How did he act again? And his character, poof, comes right back. Okay, it was a special circumstance. I get up in the morning and I say, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to work on this base all day long. And before I know it, I end up 30 miles away working on a car. Things change. Didn't mean that I changed, because probably I said the next day I'm going to spend all day working on that guitar, and whether I got to or not is a different story. So Yah's character does have, at times, doesn't change. He just has a different direction he needs to take things. And at that time, YEHOVAH said unto YEHOSHA, make you sharp knives, circumcise again the children of Yashrael the second time. And YEHOSHA made him sharp knives and circumcised at the children of Yashrael at the hill of the foreskins, which is a good place, because I'm sure there was a pretty good pile of them. And this is the cause why YEHOSHA did circumcise all the people that came out of Mitzrayim that were males, even all the men of war, died in the wilderness by the way after they came out of Mitzrayim. Now all the people that came out were circumcised, but all the people that were born in the wilderness by the way as they came forth out of Mitzrayim, them they had not circumcised, for the children of Yashrael walked 40 years in the wilderness till all the people that were men of war which came out of Mitzrayim were consumed, because they obeyed not the voice. Ask yourself a question. Is this Elohim consistent in who he is? And then if you really want to get into reality, why don't you just apply that one statement right there to your world and ask yourself, is Yah's character trustworthy? Because if it is, he just gave you the answer to what you can expect. And it's not going to be just in Israel, folks. This rumbling, this upheavaling is going on everywhere in the world. We have a foresight problem. Remember, it very much appropriates, and I'm not real sure that Yah didn't make this principle work well. If you throw a rock in the middle of a pond, the reverberation doesn't get less as it goes. You would think it would, but it doesn't. It just keeps growing. That's how Yah's prophetic voice is. It doesn't stop. Here's the next time. We could go through this Old Testament and we could probably find isolate 7, 8, 9 times maybe where we've been through this ripple and now we see all of these things happening in our world. And it's getting bigger. And they walked 40 years in the wilderness till all the people that were men of war, which came out of Mitzrayim, were consumed because they obeyed not the voice of YEHOVAH, unto whom YEHOVAH swore that he would not show them the land which YEHOVAH swore unto their fathers that he was give us, a land that flows with milk and honey. And their children whom he raised up in their stead, them Yahusha circumcised, for they were uncircumcised because they had not circumcised them by the way. And that brings up, if you read that, you actually can see a picture there. Well, was the thing that they didn't obey his voice is that they quit circumcising? That's the daddy's job, folks. Nobody wants to deal with that. It's right there in front of you. This is what happened to people who break my commandments and disobey me. I destroy them. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not when you want it, but I guarantee you his character is fail-proof. And it came to pass when they had done circumcising all the people that they abode in their places in the camp till they were whole. Now I want you guys to get a picture here. Maybe you haven't seen this really nice. Joshua and them came across the Jordan. They set a heap in the water. They set a heap out of the water at the first place they camped. We haven't even gotten to all that went on to Joshua's altar, which we will in a week or two. We haven't gotten into all that went on in that what? Stop and think what the first major thing that these people seem to do religiously or spiritually, however you want to use that term. They go and fulfill a commandment, which is the covenant. That's pretty crazy. Especially when you stop and think about what I'm saying. I'm not talking about they fulfilled the first 5 books of the Bible. And their children who they raised up in their seed, them Yahusha circumcised, for they were uncircumcised. We know. Why? Because the parents sinned. Not only did they sin by not going in, they also sinned by not keeping the covenant that they were part of. They were blood Israel, folks. They were direct descendants of Abraham. They knew what the circumcision was. Moshe was up there on the mountain. Moshe was in front of them leading them. Did he forget about it? You got to ask the question. If you remember the whole dialogue with Moshe and his wife throwing the foreskin at him, and you know, most folks don't want to deal with that one either. And YEHOVAH said unto Yahusha, this day have I rolled away at the reproach of Mitzrayim from off of you. So you now can see why I asked the question, well, was it actually that disobedience, or was it this disobedience, or was it really that if they did that disobedience, which is to say question Yah as to whether they could go up and win, and then we find them at the end, their children are coming out because why? Because their fathers did not keep the commandments. Is it a pretty good bet that in that 40 years in there wasn't too much of his commandments that they kept either? If they didn't keep circumcision, which predated them by 500, 1,000 years, Abraham, and they didn't keep that covenant that was worthy of death, and nobody talks about this, I believe the punishment was because they didn't go, but that was actually, so please, here's what I'm trying to get us to. There is a character of Elohim, and there is a character of good humans and a character of bad humans. And those things are indistinguishable. They are indestructible, and they are very distinguishable between one and another. You can know what Yah's character is, and somebody who has no or low character, you can know that. You also can know someone who has high character. And we need to know those things. Yah's is impeccable. That's supposed to be the pattern we're trying to learn to live to. It's his character. I never do anything wrong. I always love that out of the New Testament. I quoted it a lot. And it is a Hebrew statement made by Yeshua, I believe, but it wasn't made by JC. That Yah never changes. What? But you're the new sheriff in town, right? Come on, guys. You're smarter than that. So YEHOVAH says unto YEHOVAH, this day have I rolled away at the reproach of Mitzrayim from off of you, wherefore the name of this place is called Gilgal unto this day. Now you remember why he rolled the shame off of them? Because they returned to keeping the commandments. They circumcised. It would be like breaking the Shabbat. How do you fix that? Start keeping the Shabbat again. And the children of Yisrael encamped in Gilgal and kept at the Pesach on the 14th day of the month at the evening in the plains of Jericho. So you know they went out in the spring. And they did eat of the old grain of the land on the morrow after the Pesach, matzah cakes and parched grain in the selfsame day. And the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten the old grain of the land. Neither had the children of Yisrael manna any more. But they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. Question. Is there a time when Yah leaves us on our own to see what we're going to do? He sustained them because he knew they wouldn't be capable. He also removed it to make sure that they were capable. And the manna ceased. Boy, I bet that was like losing welfare. And it came to pass when Yahusha was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and he looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Yahusha went unto him and said unto him, are you for us or for our adversaries? Seems like a lot of people's asking that question secretively right now. And he said, nay, but as captain of the host of YEHOVAH am I now come. So it says to Joshua, the leader of these people, I'm your boss. I am captain of the host of YEHOVAH. Wow, I bet Yahushua did freak out. That's why he fell down. And did worship and said unto him, what says my Lord unto his servant? And the captain of YEHOVAH's host said unto Yahushua, loose your shoes from off of your feet, for the place whereon you stand is holy. And Yahushua did so. Now, once again, we have another parallel back to Moshe, and Joshua is the replacement Moshe. And the people that he's leading are the replacement Israel. Will you get it right this time or won't you? So what I would like to propose to you, that creation has always been going on. Okay? Yah builds up and he sets down. We don't take those things really to heart like we should, and actually think about maybe what this Elohim, who has limitless power, what that means to him and what that means to you is pretty pathetic. Most people I know can't even carry on a very good conversation, much less communicate the things of the whole world. So when we hear words, we don't place any value in them, so we don't give them any value. If you knew who it was that was talking to you and he said something to you, if God picked up the phone and called you and told you, I don't like the way you're living and you think that you're okay with me, but I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be dead by tomorrow morning. How would you answer that call? Because those times come every single day, folks. There's people that haven't made it there today that will be there before this day is over with. And it's only if it's serious to you will you give that any heed. Otherwise, you'll turn it off because you don't want to hear such nonsense. And that's okay with Yah. Turn it off. Yeah, woke ideologues and agendas absolutely do not in any way affect YEHOVAH but anger him. And so they begin to keep the Passover. And the manna ceased, food cut off. You're over here. I brought you out. I brought you back up to speed on my commandments. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting you to the test. That's how Yah works. That's one of his character traits. So just remember, if things start going bad for you, you probably don't have as much to worry about the devil as you do YEHOVAH. And whether that be for good, in other words, you're doing well and he wants to see you perform, he wants to see you be strong in front of him, or you're doing really horrible and he has every purpose to punish you. And inevitably who we are will prove out which one of those two we are. People fake and hide that stuff all the time, but there's no faking and hiding. It will be found out. And it came to pass when Yahusha was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and he looked and he saw this great man. You could say that, you know, I've heard people in the past when I was in Christian church, oh, that was JC. Maybe it was. But then again, you also have to give equal credence to, pretty sure it wasn't. And the captain of YEHOVAH's host said unto El Yahusha, loose your shoes from off of your feet, for the place whereon you stand is Kadosh. And Yahusha did so. So he shows you a few things. He shows you that Joshua's heart really is the same as what Moshe's heart was, which is why Yah chose him to be with. So that brings the next question. Sometimes, folks, things that don't work, they're a sign, they're an indicator, they're a signal to you. We should learn to listen to that. Now Jericho was straitly shut up because of the children of Yashrael, and none went out, and none came in. And YEHOVAH said unto El Yahusha, see, I have given into your hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor, and you shall pass at the city, all ye men of war, and go about at the city once. Thus shall you do 6 days, and 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 shoforoth of ram's horns, and the 7th day you shall compass at the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the shoforoth, and it shall come to pass when they have made a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the shofar, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down, and the people shall ascend up every man straight before him. And Yahusha the son of Nun called the priest and said unto them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 shoforoth of ram's horns before the ark of YEHOVAH. And he said unto the people, pass on and compass at the city, and let him that is armed pass on before the ark of YEHOVAH. And it came to pass when YEHOVAH when Yahusha had spoken unto the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 shofaroth of ram's horns passed on before YEHOVAH and blew with the shofaroth, and the ark of the covenant of YEHOVAH followed them. Once again, I'd like you to realize that very clearly, distinctly, over and over again tells us that the ark is the ark of the covenant. What is the covenant? That's all we need to find to understand what was inside of there. And there was nothing in that box but the tablets. I'm not real convinced that they're not in Ethiopia right now. I can see as corrupt as Solomon became, it wouldn't have been a big deal for him to have given the Ark of the Covenant to her to take to Abimelech, her son. Because you remember, he's half blood seed of Solomon, one of the supposedly most decorated, most godly kings of Israel that has ever existed. I don't care if it was with a Nubian woman that he had this. She was princess and he was a king. That kid, Abimelech, he had some stuff going on in his life. I promise you that. He lived like a king, even if it was over in Ethiopia. No question that Abimelech was the son of Shalamon. And the armed men went before the priests that blew with the shofaroth, and the rearward came after the ark, and the priests going on and blowing with the shofar. And Yahusha had commanded the people, saying, You shall not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth, until the day that I bid you shout. Then shall you shout. So the ark of YEHOVAH compassed the city, going about it once, and they came into the camp, and they lodged in the camp. Now here's a question I would like to ask you. This is something that's so simple, but I think if you'll pay attention and look at yourself honestly, you will see that you probably do it a lot more than you realize you do. There was a simple commandment given. Now understand all of this just as it is in our day, because it is in our day. This is a movement that you can't see that is spiritual, that is the return to YEHOVAH's word and to the getting rid, the washing of the falseness. That's what this thing is all about. He doesn't care. He's going to destroy the whole earth anyways. If we've come to the end of time, folks, we've come to the end of time. You can fall on your face and pray until you die from lack of air, and it ain't going to change nothing. Yah's time schedule is right on time to where it's going to be. And that's sometimes where we think that we can manipulate and modify things that are set in stone. It doesn't work like that. He's not going to change anything for you. Okay? The question is do you get to be a part of what he's doing, or do you become his enemy? That's really the question that all of us have to deal with. And if you're a Christian, I'm sure that these words are quite strange to you, but alas, everything that's not the lie is strange. Wouldn't you say? If all you've ever known is the lie, what isn't the lie? Wouldn't the truth be kind of strange to you? We don't ask those kind of questions very often. They give me great peace. I'm going, well, of course they would. That's who they are. I had a church full of them in Austin. So what I wanted you to see is this concept. Think about this because it's really simple. YEHOVAH tells Joshua, I want you to do this. So he gives him the Torah. He gives them instructions to do what is right. In other words, to do the words that YEHOVAH wanted, he commanded him, is a Torah. So he got the Torah for how he was to do this military campaign. Now, here's the thing that we'll never know, and they didn't, but it is something that we need to think about because we live in a society that is very prone to rebellion and disobedience. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying. This society by nature is rebellious and disobedient. Okay? That's why they have to change. Now we're not sure whether you're boy or girl. Maybe a doctor can tell us. I'm sorrowful that people in college can't answer that question. When I was a 2-year-old kid and I zipped the front of my pants down, I didn't have no problems with who I was. I knew exactly who I was. And I knew that I'd never met a girl that did the same as myself. She got pretty wet if she did. You say, well, that's kind of a strange statement. Not really. I think to me the stranger statement is how could it even anybody even tolerate somebody who can't discern something that simple? That's the real travesty. What I said is true, it's literal. But the travesty is that we even have that discussion. So, what had happened if the people had shouted? Remember, specific commandment. Here's another piece of Yah's character and a principle that always applies. What was sin in a garden? Huh? Oh, wow. Dave answered the question of all times, folks. Maybe you did too. I hope you did. If you didn't, I'd love to give you the answer, and then I hope you'll at least try to remember it. What was the original sin? Was it eating the apple? Which wasn't an apple. But I'm okay to use the term apple because nobody knows. So whatever you say is probably wrong. Right? Is the apple really the point? No, I don't think. What fruit? Yeah. So how does that apply to our life? Because in our life, folks, if he tells us not to do something and we do it, we have broken the Torah. We have sinned. And that's the point. So what he told these people, I specifically want you to do this. In other words, he gave commandment. This is what you are going to do. And if you don't, then you are rebellious to me. See, that's where we have such struggles if you were brought up in this society, because you think you have a right. And unfortunately, in the heavenlies, folks, you don't have any rights. Yah is the supreme ruler. What he says stands no matter how many people thumb their fist at him and curse him, which is exactly what we have been told in the New Testament was going to happen at the end of time, which we ain't far from now. Is anybody alive and awake today? Man, I'm alive and awake. YEHOVAH's awesome. He's been showing this stuff. Life makes more sense to me now than it ever has. It's like, I get it. Quit fighting with it. It's what they are what they are. You can't change it. You just got to keep on walking. Wow. And it came to pass on the seventh day that they rose early about the dawning of the day and compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only on that day they compassed the city 7 times. And it came to pass at the 7th time, when the priest blew with the shofar, Yahusha said unto the people, and what happens if he all of a sudden gets laryngitis? What happens if Joshua says shout and all the people go, well, I don't know, man, I don't think anybody will hear me? Does it really matter what form of excuse you use to break Yah's word? Not really. It's still only the same thing. It's still sin. I thought about that. That's kind of a hard understanding. We look at things like Mussolini and look at things like Adolf Hitler and everybody's so horrible about Adolf Hitler. Honey, if you don't make it into the Shamayim, you ain't no different than Hitler is. We don't like to deal with realities in our lives. We like the fake. Truth of the matter is sin is sin. And the city will be accursed. I'm sorry. And so they said, he said, shout, for YEHOVAH has given you the city. What happens, once again, what happens if they choose not to shout? Does Jericho still fall? You don't know the answer, and I don't know the answer, but I'm saying it's a question you ought to be asking. How does Yah deal with things? What does it really take for you to be cursed, even if you don't have enough intelligence to know that you are cursed? And if you don't have enough intelligence to know that you are cursed, how the heck would you ever figure out that you are? You won't. That's why most people will die in ignorance, because they have a curse on them. Remember, we're going to find out here in a few weeks about there's 5 things, and 5 things bring a blessing, and you don't get no blessing otherwise. That's it. I said before you this day, there is no other option. You are one or you are the other. We don't really grasp that in reality, I don't think, a lot of times. And so Yah says, and the city shall be accursed, even it, and all they that are therein. Now I want you to see, here is a place where Yah speaks of their total annihilation, and he calls it them being cursed. So what if Iran sends a nuclear weapon and destroys all the people that are in Israel right now, and they are totally annihilated? Everybody would be shouting one thing. I'm not so sure. I wouldn't be questioning, well, let me see. From what I know of the scriptures, those people that live in Israel, most of them are not true Torah keepers anyways, because at best they're following rabbis and not the scripture. So was it Memorex or was it live? Was it Yah, once again, doing what he said he would do? And I'll build yet again another Israel that'll care about my Torah, care about my word, care about obeying me, care about loving me, and that will be my Israel. Because that doesn't exist over there now. That's just so huge. And only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. Did she go through hardship to do what's right? Absolutely. Did she win in the end? I don't know. I guess that depends on whether you call life or death winning or losing. She and all that were in her house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And ye in any wise guard yourselves from the accursed thing, lest you make yourselves accursed. When you take of the accursed thing and make the camp of Yashrael a curse and trouble it. So here's another huge principle, folks. All of these are like pills in a bottle. Each one of them, you take them all together because you need the whole package. But each one of those principles is a pill. And if you crack the shell of it, if you spend the time and care enough about Yah to crack the shell on it and open that pill up, you then get to find out what's inside of that pill. Maybe that's a picture that will help somebody in their mind to understand the way that Yah is. Folks, we're supposed to be learning his character, and because we know his character, we know that he's always going to behave the way he does. Heaven and earth will pass away, but YEHOVAH his words will never pass away. YEHOVAH is forever. He's never going to change. He's always the same. How many times do we need to get beat over the head with this thing that you're going to die and he ain't? Sometimes, I don't know, man. So he uses being accursed, he ties it with destruction. So if you are accursed, then you now can know that Yah's destruction of you individually is assured, as long as you continue to defy Yah. And people close their simple little spacious minds off and don't listen to that because they don't want to be accountable for their behavior. I don't feel sorry for people that end up in hell like that. Especially if you heard the truth and then you did nothing about it. You didn't really care. You were okay. Yeah, hey, I want to suffer for eternity. Good luck with that one. At least I feel like I'm smart enough to recognize that might not be the best path. And I think many of you are. That's the problem. Your intelligence has been insulted with this stupidity that you can do nothing and get something. It's not him, folks. That's a false That's a false Elohim. That is not Yah. Your works won't save you, but if you don't have your works, I assure you, you won't be saved. What will save you is your mind. And accepting YEHOVAH's word is the truth. That's what saves you. Even the book of Revelation tells us that. And so, Rahab got to live, and you in any wise guard yourselves from the accursed thing. So, I'll show you about the cursed thing. When the cursed thing is spoken, folks, it'll get on you if you stick your hands in it. This guy paid the ultimate price. Him and everybody who was in his family. I'm sure his little kids didn't do a thing. I'm sure his wife didn't sit around and know that my husband's about to go to war. He's going to kill 5,000 of these people with a sword, and he's going to steal the very thing Yah said that he would curse that guy for. And because of that, we're going to watch him and all of us go into the pit. That's pretty steep. So let me ask you a question, man. I talk a lot about women, but I certainly talk a lot about men as well. Let me ask you a question. If you're the leader of your family, is that what you're leading them to now? See, it's not that people can't do these horrible, heinous things to YEHOVAH. That's not the deal. They can. The question is are you simple-minded enough that you haven't figured out what you're doing to yourself and to your family if you're a man who doesn't rule your family? And ye in any wise guard yourself, any way necessary, guard yourself from the accursed thing, lest ye make yourselves accursed. So when we touch the accursed thing, did anybody catch what he just said happens to you? You become cursed also. Did you know that that's just like clean? When you touch the unclean, you become unclean. Used to be a little catch Christian phrase that spirits aren't taught, they're caught. Spirits are taught after they're caught. That's why people who have bad spirits teach bad things. But all the silver and the gold and the vessels of brass and iron are consecrated unto YEHOVAH, that shall come into the treasury of YEHOVAH. Everything else I want totally annihilated. Do not fail me. So the people shouted when the priest blew the shofar, and it came to pass when the people heard the sound of the shofar, the people shouted with a great shout that the wall fell down flat. So the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. Did Yah's words, when people are obedient, work flawlessly? When does Yah's word not work? When people rebel. But the problem is Yah's word isn't, that's part of the parallel I'm trying to get you to see here, and we can find this in every situation all the way through history. Solomon, all of them. David, every single one of them. Every man that Yah raised up was an opportunity for him to do what the other ones didn't. Or to do what they did if you're looking at from the good side. If you're looking at what Moses did. Joshua did what Moses did. He became a leader to the people, and he led them without selling Yah down the river. If we had a president in the United States of America that would stand up and give an address about the lawlessness of this country and that we needed to return to Torah, I would be quite excited myself. That'll never happen. But how amazing that revival would be if we begin to return to doing what's right according to humanity. So don't touch the accursed thing, but all the silver and the gold and the vessels of brass and iron are consecrated unto Yah. They go to the treasury. So the people shouted when the priest blew the shofar, and it came to pass when the people heard the sound of the shofar, the people shouted with a great shout, and the wall fell flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him. And they took the city, and they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man, woman, young, and old. And that right there, folks, is hard for a lot of people in our society to deal with. But I assure you, Yah's wisdom is so much higher than yours ever will be. He gives it to us in simple little things like, how can two go together except they agree? The answer is they won't. One will walk off or the other will. And that's okay. That's according to Yah's order. Don't be scared when people who don't have the ideology you do walk away from you. Don't be scared and don't be concerned. Be sorrowful for them if you're walking the right path. Because they just cursed themselves. You didn't do it. They did. So the people shouted when the priest blew, the walls fell, just exactly like Yah said, if you will keep my commands, you'll get victory. Can I say to us today, if we keep his commands, we will have victory. We'll suffer. Joshua and them have to go with them swords. Don't you know that those guys had to find a river every day to go bathe in because they were covered with blood? Could you imagine swinging a sword for 14 hours? You killed 27 people, 2,700 people with a sword in one day, one man? I can't imagine what that must have looked like. Even if you're the winner, that must be a horrible sight. Wow. So they blew and Yah's word worked. I wonder if we just chose to do Yah's words without arguing and questioning him so much. I'm just wondering if he would come through the same way today. Maybe he changed, you know. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man, woman, young, and old, and ox and sheep and ass with the edge of the sword. But Yahusha had said unto the two men that had spied out of the country, go into the harlot's house and bring out thence at the woman and all that she has, as you swore unto her. And the young men that were spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father and her mother and her brethren and all that she had. And they brought out all of her kindred and left them without the camp of Israel. Now, I don't know about you, but I bet on that day Rahab and her family was somewhat joyous. So here's a question for you. YEHOVAH says that we're to guard his commandments. That we're to guard his commandments. Can you dare to allow yourself to believe that just as we just saw with Rahab, who was not, she was a pagan, but she had heard of YEHOVAH, and she obeyed and did his right rulings, what are right. See, the problem is that all rightness and all levels of morality all stem from Yah. The question is how much do men corrupt those? See, even when we were a good country, folks, I hate to say this, but even when we were a good country, we were sinners. When the Quakers came here, they were sinners. When the Pilgrims left England, they were sinners. And that's one of the large problems that we have. If the things I've proposed and said in front of you are true, and I promise you there are plenty of people that know and have seen what I'm telling you is true, then this country has never. It might have been a nation under a God, but it has never been one nation under the supreme Elohim. Because if they had, then we would all be walking around living the Torah with all of our diligence. So this country's never been blessed, not by him. Has he used this country? Probably thousands of times. Is there good in this country? Yeah, I believe there absolutely is. But was this country founded No, it was founded on Christianity, not on the Torah. You can't have one, you cannot be part of the abominable thing and his. That's why there are no Christian Torah keepers, because Christianity teaches to break the Torah. I mean, surely you can see that. Wow. So he saved Rahab, lets her go, fulfills his word, proves his character. By gosh, Joshua does what he says he'll do. And Yahushua adjured them at that time, saying, Cursed be the man before YEHOVAH that rises up and builds at this city Jericho. He shall lay the foundations thereof in his firstborn, and in his youngest son shall he set up the gates of it. So in other words, the curse is your children will die. But the children of Yisrael committed a transgression. Oh my gosh, they came to this point and we made it what? We made it into one battle. We saw one supernatural victory, and now we're sitting around the pots going, wish we could go back to Egypt, man. We had a lot more to eat over there. You know, that's what it all comes out of, right? Is greed and self-centeredness. And that's what I said. If this man had ever given thought to what the ramifications of his bad decision was, he either really did hate his family, and because he's gotten to see all of this stuff himself. In the accursing thing, for Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerach, of the tribe of Yehuda, a Jew, first time you hear about a Jew, took up the accursed thing. So can you get the little revelation out of that? When they came across, the first person to steal was a Jew. So much for watching the temple, huh? Zerach of the tribe of Yehuda took up the accursed thing, and the anger of YEHOVAH was kindled against the children of Yisrael. And Yahushua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is beside Beit Avan, and on the east side of Beit El, and spoke unto them, saying, Go up and view at the country. And the men went up and viewed, and they returned to El Yahushua, and said unto him, Let all of the people go up, but let about 2,000 to 3,000 men go up and smite Ai, and make not yet all of the people to labor thither, for they are but few. So there went up thither of the people about 3,000 men, and they fled before the men of Ai. And the men of Ai smote of them about 36 men, earth-shattering. I sent 3,000, and 36 got killed, and I'm violently angry. Now the character of YEHOVAH. You want to know what your sin looks like to him? He's about to show you. This is the perfect metaphoric picture of you. And when I say you, everyone who can hear my voice and everyone who ever hears my voice, I'm talking to you. This is how Yah looks at breaking his Torah. So there went up thither of the people about 3,000, and they fled before the men of Ai. And the men of Ai smote of them about 36 men, for they chased them from before the gate even until Shevarim, and they smote them in the going down, wherefore the hearts of the people melted and became as water. Now they've just stomped a whole town, killed everything that lives, animals, babies, women, men, obliterated this, and they go to the next war, and because of one person's sin, the nation suffers. Is anybody alive and awake today? What do you think sin does to your family? Whether you're a male or a female. Wow, that's pretty huge, isn't it? And Yahushua rent his clothes and fell to the earth upon his face before the ark of YEHOVAH until the evening, he and the elders of Yisrael. And they put dust upon their heads. And Yahushua said, Alas, O Adonai YEHOVAH, Wherefore have you at all brought at this people over the Jordan to deliver us into the hand of the Emoriim and to destroy us? So what does Joshua do? He even questions. Y'all remember hearing this back in the Exodus? Same question was asked. Would to Elohim we had been content. Well, I just wish we'd have been happy back there. You know, we wouldn't have had to come and put up with and go through all of this. Been okay if we didn't inherit the land or the promises, and YEHOVAH had been made a liar. And wow, this is the great and courageous leader. You got to admit, that's pretty puzzling. He starts immediately questioning Elohim. You might have seen a little bit more composure of character, that he would have recognized something in our midst, someone in our midst has sinned, and we got to find out what it is. Instead, he starts questioning Yah already. After a supernatural destruction of a whole city. Would to Elohim that we had been content. Come on, Joshua. I really would have expected to hear that from somebody else, not you. And I'm guessing that that's probably about the spirit of how YEHOVAH received it too. Oh, Adonai. Oh, would to Elohim we had been content and dwelt on the other side of the Jordan. Oh, Adonai, what shall I say when Yisrael turns their backs before their enemies? For the Canaan and all the inhabitants of the land will hear of this, and shall environ us around and cut off at our name from the earth. And what will you do under your great name? And of course, we know the answer to that. I'll build a new people. My name hasn't changed just because y'all are failures. And YEHOVAH said unto Yahusha, get up. Wherefore lie ye thus upon your face? In our modern vernacular, we might use some different words, but it'd be the same thing. What are you doing laying on your face, Joshua? Y'all think Yah was really stoked about Joshua's character right about here? Did it ever occur to you that maybe Yah sent the host of the army because he knew Joshua was weak? Maybe he was actually encouraging. How many times maybe in our life is Yah really trying to tell us that that's who we are, and because we're so self-centered and we're so smart, we could never be the problem. It has to be someone else. If it's a marriage, it's whichever the other spouse is. If it's a work, it's who you work with. If it's work, it's your boss. We never ask ourselves, is Yah really speaking to me? And YEHOVAH said unto Yahusha, get up. Wherefore lie you down upon your face? Yisrael has sinned. And that's one of the points I wanted to get to. First off, you see the character of Joshua. Make sure you don't have that behavior. But he tells us real quick, when things start going bad in our life, I assure you, the first thought should be, what have I done, not what has he done? Yisrael has sinned, and they have also transgressed my covenant, which I commanded them, for they have even taken of the accursed thing, and have also stolen and dissembled also, and they have put it amongst even their own stuff. Therefore the children of Yisrael could not stand before their enemies, but they turned their backs before their enemies. Did you get the message as to why they turned their back? Because when you break YEHOVAH's covenant, you are weak. What was the immediate response that happened to them? They became chickens. They lost all heart. They were feared. 36 people in a military war out of their 3,000. You figure the others had 2,000 or 3,000. You're talking 5,000 men, and 36 men are significant? Maybe you ought to ask yourself that question. Get up. I feel like sometimes I need to recognize that. What are you down there whining about? Get up. Didn't I tell you it's going to be okay? Folks, there's some bad times coming. I'm just telling you that right now. You can't put up enough food to get you through what's coming. And I don't reckon it's going to be too long. Yisrael has sinned. So for Yah, it's really very easy. It's very pragmatic for him. You keep my Torah, you prosper. You don't, you're cursed. See how simple that is? Too simple for simple humans. There must be something else supernatural to make all of this the truth. And the supernatural is that we supernaturally can't seem to see the truth. Because it's that simple. You sin, things go bad. Yeah, you probably think you're living a good life and you think that, you letting whatever sin go on, you think that's okay. Well, it's really not. And we just justify our horrible behavior before him, which really, unfortunately, in most cases is an act of the will. So though it is a hard word, you wanted it. You did exactly what he told you not to do, and just because you have no character doesn't mean he doesn't have character. Just because your word doesn't mean anything doesn't mean his word doesn't mean anything. If he tells you something, he's going to do it. And so they have also transgressed at my covenant, which I commanded them, for they have even taken of the accursed thing, and have also stolen, and disassembled also, and they have put it even amongst their own stuff. Now, I want you to see there's a little differentiation there, because he's actually showing 2 points that you will miss, maybe. Okay? The reason that they put, and you have stolen, is because that's the Torah that they broke. Of the Torah, taking something was a breaking of the commandment that he gave Joshua for their behavior. You see, he's actually talking about 2 separate things at the same time. He's talking about you sinned because I told you specifically don't take that, so you transgress, that's Torah. See, do you understand? Any of Yah's instructions to us are the quintessential definition of Torah is instruction. Yes, instruction in righteousness. You can just say instruction because nothing that Yah does is unrighteous. So if he gives you instructions, it's so you can do right. All right? So when Yah gives us instruction, that is a commandment. It's not a suggestion. It's not a if you choose to. It's not if the psychology teacher or doctor tells you that, it's just ludicrous how we view and how little confidence we have in who Elohim is. So they actually sinned twice. Once they broke the Torah he gave for the battle, and the other by stealing, taking something that wasn't theirs. They broke the Torah of mankind. We have it right here. The 10 words tell us specifically, do not take something that is not yours. If it's not yours, leave it alone. I don't care how much you want it. Therefore, the children of Yisrael could not stand before their enemies. Why did this trouble happen? Because of thieves and liars. But they turned their back before their enemies because they were accursed. Neither will I be with you anymore, except you destroy the accursed thing from amongst you. So now the penalty of one has spread through the whole camp, because now the whole camp, because of that person, that single person, well, what if that principle is alive in our life? How many of you can't seem to let go of anything that, no matter how much sin it is, you just can't let go of it for whatever reason? I hate to tell you, folks, you're just as guilty of their sin as they are. People have hated me and walked away from me because I preach of separation. It's the greatest thing you can ever do to protect yourself. In fact, it is the only protection that you have. Because I guarantee you, if the seed gets sowed, you will sin. If they put a hamburger made out of pork in front of you enough times, eventually you're going to be weak and you're going to pick it up and eat it. You want to keep going sitting at the table, knock yourself out. But I'm just telling you, y'all's already told us what the end of that behavior is. So, except you destroy the accursed from amongst you. That's a principle that I don't think just went away, folks. Up, sanctify the people and say, sanctify yourselves against tomorrow, for thus says YEHOVAH Elohai of Yisrael, there is an accursed thing in the midst of you, O Yisrael. You cannot stand before your enemies until you take away the accursed thing from amongst you. And I tell you today, you cannot stand before him until you remove the accursed thing out of your life. You're just playing games. You think that you're okay with him, and you're not. Wow, that statement. Oh, Yisrael, you cannot stand before your enemies until you take away the cursed thing from amongst you. Very pragmatic. Just nothing else that you need to add. Nothing you can take away from that. Not going to be any resolve for you until you fix it. So what if that is? It is. But what if that principle is true in every one of our everyday lives? I think we have to then ask some really serious questions to ourselves. In the morning, therefore, you shall be brought according to your tribes, and it shall be that the tribe which YEHOVAH takes shall come according to the families thereof, and the family which YEHOVAH shall take shall come by the households, and the households which YEHOVAH takes. So who is the guide in all of this? Did you notice the judge is the eternal Elohim, not Joshua? YEHOVAH, YEHOVAH, YEHOVAH. You don't have to guess, folks, what YEHOVAH, how he feels about humans. Which YEHOVAH takes shall come according to the families thereof, and the family which YEHOVAH shall take shall come by the households, and the household which YEHOVAH shall take will come man by man. Wow. That's a death curse right there, folks. And it shall be that he that is taken with the accursed thing shall be burnt with fire, he and all that he has, because he has transgressed the covenant of YEHOVAH, and because he has wrought folly in Yisrael. So, one of the things that we should, I think, extract for ourselves if we're on a self-preservation mode, which I actually tend to be, what is it that I need to do to keep this from happening to me? And of course, if you don't believe that any of this is true, then none of it means anything to you, and I don't know why you're not, doing whatever. So Yahushua rose up early in the morning, and he brought Yisrael by their tribes, and the tribe of Yehuda was taken. Yah said, I want Judah. So once again, I know that you guys might not see this, but this is actually pretty part of the recurrent theme all through time. Supposedly the ones that are chosen are the ones who always are in trouble. So Yahushua rose up early in the morning at Yisrael by their tribes, and the tribe of Yehuda was taken, and he brought at the family of Yehuda, and he took at the family of Zarkiam, and he brought up the family of Zarkiam man by man, and Zabdi was taken, and he brought at his household man by man, and Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerach, of the tribe of Yehuda, was taken. And Yahushua said unto Achan, my son, give, I pray you, glory to YEHOVAH Elohai of Yisrael, and make confession unto who? Make confession unto what? Make confession unto the priest, would you, sir, and leave your offering. All that stuff you took, we'll get you in if you'll just donate it. And Yahushua said unto Achan, my son, give, I pray you, glory to YEHOVAH Elohai of Yisrael, and make confession unto him, and tell me what you have done. Hide it not from me. And Achan answered Yahusha and said, Indeed, I have sinned against YEHOVAH Elohai. Do you not think that was the most horrible thing to be brought up in front of the whole nation and everyone know? Wow. Man, that Yah, he wasn't very kind, was he? Indeed, I have sinned. So do you think that he didn't realize he had sinned until then, or was it really the truth is that he knew what right and wrong was before he ever took it, and he had a decision in his mind, do I, don't I, do I, don't I, do. Any of y'all ever been in the do I, don't I? I do it about 1,000 times every day, I think. Do I, don't I, do I, don't I, do I, don't I. No, I can't. I know that's not okay, well, that's the truth, then I'm not going to go there. Most of the times I win, not always, but you guys are probably a lot more better at that than I am. And Achan answered Yahusha, Indeed, I have sinned against YEHOVAH of Yisrael, and thus have I done. And when I saw among the spoils a goodly garment of Shinar, Babylon, and 200 shekels of silver and a wedge of gold, 50 shekels weight, then I coveted them and I took them. So, see, not only did he steal, he coveted, both of which are Torah requirements, right? Did you know that the Torah is only 10 words, but it will cover every thought that you have in your whole life if you learn to apply it? Do you know why you're unsuccessful? Because you don't want to learn how to apply it. If you had to run everything through your mind through this, if you could only think, it's like when somebody's talking, you put it like that. And when they're over here, you put it like that. You go, I'm not listening, and I'm not looking, I'm not seeing anything outside of through the Torah. Because the Torah will always tell you what right and wrong is. It's really a protection for us, folks. Not supposed to be some hard thing to do. He's actually trying to protect you, which we'll read at the end of service, that's exactly what Yah said. He said it, man. All I'm telling you, this Elohim that we've been told is some mean ogre that this nice guy replaced that doesn't want anything from us. This Elohim, boy, wow, he's amazing. So unfortunately for Achan, verse 21, when I saw among the spoils a goodly garment of Shinar, 200 shekels of silver, a wedge of gold, and 50 shekels weight, then I coveted them, and I took them, and behold, they are hid in the earth in the midst of my tent, and the silver under it. So Yahusha sent messengers, and they ran unto the tent, and behold, it was hid in his tent, and the silver under it. And they took them out of the midst of his tent, and they brought them unto Yahusha and unto all the children of Yisrael, and laid them out before YEHOVAH. And Yahusha and Yisrael and all Yisrael with him took at Achan the son of Sirach, and at the silver, and at the garment, and at the wedge of gold, and at his sons, and at his daughters, and at his oxen, and at his asses, and at his sheep, and at his tent, and at all that he had. And they brought them unto the valley of Achor. And Yahusha said, Why have you troubled us? YEHOVAH shall trouble you this day. And all Yisrael stoned him with stones, and then burned him with fire, burned them, all of them, with fire. And after they had stoned them with stones, and they raised over him a great heap of stones unto this day. So YEHOVAH turned from the fierceness of his anger, wherefore the name of that place is Emek Achor unto this day. So what a profound statement, huh? Let us all bow our hearts in humble submission and ask ourselves the question, does my sin affect anyone else? I don't know what conclusion you come to, but I know what conclusion I come to. Wow. You know, this stuff right here wouldn't even have to be historically true for the principles to be so overpowering if you're capable of seeing. When people have karma, they're all just experiencing the same thing. You do wrong, you pay a price. You pay a price even if you do right, but at least it ain't as bad as those that do wrong. And yes, of course, there are injustices. People are unjust. So, some of the people on death row absolutely were innocent. Wow. I'm going to live a much better life this week, folks. I don't know about you. I don't have any clue about how most of you deal with this stuff, but I'm just going to tell you right now, I live a better life, and I'm more peaceful now than I probably have been, and I don't know how long. It's all right. He's got it under control. I can trust him. I don't know much else, but I do know that. YEHOVAH will kneel before you presenting gifts, and he will guard you with a hedge of protection. He will illuminate the wholeness of his being toward you, and by doing so, he'll bring order into your life. Didn't say everything would be perfect, but things make sense even when they shouldn't. And he will give you comfort and sustenance. YEHOVAH will lift up the completeness of his self so that you might see him in the spirit realm. And look upon you, and he will set in place everything you need to be whole and complete. I guess one of the questions you could ask yourself is what is it that I want versus what is it that I really need? I think if you would look at those two questions independently of each other, you might find that what you really think are your needs are mostly wants. I need eternal life. I don't need to live. I'm at peace with him. I trust him. If he says today is the day and I get up and that thing goes off and I fall down dead right here on the floor, folks, you won't hear a complaint from me. And that's a fact. So, life is what it is. YEHOVAH is what he is. Question that this is all about is, who are you? Are you with us? Are you with YEHOVAH? Or are you against him? The line's drawn. It's never going to change. It's not going to move. It's up to you to choose which side of that line you stand on. They call that line the straight way. Let's pray. Father, bless you today. Thank you for all your wonderful love and mercy. Wow, so much you've shown us. It's just full. Full of YEHOVAH and who he is. Most of us have been so indoctrinated with the lies of Christianity that we can't see who you are. And so I hope through me I'll help someone to see who you are. If I walk in your Torah and walk in your truth, I have no fear. And if I walk contrary to you, my life will be fearful. And so I bless you today. Thank you for your goodness. Thank you for being kind to me and loving me. Thank you for being kind and loving all of those others who have listened and are maybe finding your word on their journey, on their struggle. I just ask you to give all of us the courage, help us. I realize that we have to have it ourselves, but I think that you help those people who desire to do what's right. So I bless you. I thank you. I ask you to help us through this week. I ask you to guide us. Help us to apply some of these things. Maybe they'll come into our mind during the course of our everyday struggles. I bless you today and thank you. Amen. All right. Well, we will be back on Wednesday night, Yah willing, at 7 o'clock, folks. We're coming relatively near the end of Ecclesiasticus. And so I hope you guys will join us for our little weekly Bible study and looking and searching the wisdoms, which is, they only come from Yah, folks. You won't get them anywhere else. And so I hope that you'll be a part of that. And we will see you then. Shalom.